Hey guys, I'm super excited for today's video. Today I'm going to be sharing my personal testimony with you about everything that God has done in my life. We're going to go through the highs, we're going to go through the lows, we're going to do it all together. Hopefully I don't forget anything, but I hope you enjoy this. Get to know me a little bit more. If we haven't met, my name is Harrison. Leave your name in the comments below, and it'd be great to connect with you guys, start to build a relationship. But I'm super excited to just share really the heart behind this video, right? Is to just give glory to God. Glory to God for everything that He's done for me. And if you relate to different parts of my story, I want to give you hope. Hope that God can do for you what He did for me. That in the way He turned my life around, He can turn your life around. The way He saved me, He can save you. The way He set me free is the same way that He wants to set you free as well. So we're going to jump into this story, and I pray that you are encouraged and blessed by the goodness of God that I have experienced in my life. So, growing up, right, I had a good family. I have a great mom, a great dad. I'm so thankful for them and for the way that they raised me. Are they perfect? Of course not. No one is. But did they do their best? They truly did. And I saw that. And I actually really appreciate that now that I'm a parent myself and I can look back at what they did and what they tried to do in their parenting. So growing up, right, it was my mom, my dad, myself, and then I have a younger sister who's 3 years younger than me. So I was the older brother. And so growing up, we were a church family, right? We always went to church every Sunday. Actually, my dad is first generation Christian, meaning he was the first one. Well, him and his mom, my grandma, got saved around the same time. So they kind of grew up as a Christian together, right? They learned together. It wasn't like my grandma was teaching my dad anything like that. They were kind of learning together. And then my mom grew up in a Christian home. So as you can kind of see, like I've been surrounded with a Christian family for my life. That's kind of what I know. I don't really know anything apart from that, which is a super huge blessing that I can see now. So I have this Christian family, right? We go to church, grew up in the church. In fact, my mom, right, she got a job at the church we grew up at in the office. So she was in charge of all the administrative work at our church. So really what the picture I'm trying to paint right now is that like I was always at the church and I was very involved at the church. But this was actually a good thing to me. Like I enjoyed it. I loved being at church. I had a good time. I had good experiences at the church. Nothing really bad happened to me or to my family, and so we were super fortunate and super blessed by God in that regard. We plugged into a good local church that was family oriented, and so you know what? I grew up that way. Like I grew up learning about the stories in the Bible and reading the different Bible verses and memorizing them and like praying with my parents before bed and reading my Bible when I was old enough to read for myself. And like this was the habit that I got into. And it was good. It actually was great. And that's how I'm trying to raise my children as well now. Everything sounds good, but I didn't have a perfect life. Now, some other things about me were that I really enjoyed playing soccer. This was a huge, huge part of my identity growing up. From the day that I was 5 years old all the way up till I was about 20, I was playing soccer like every single day. It just consumed my time, and I found success in it. I remember my grandma, my sweet grandma, telling me after every game, because she would come to all my games, she would tell me, Harrison, you're the best soccer player in the world. And I believed her for maybe a year until I was old enough to realize, of course, that's not true, but she's this very supportive grandma. Even to this day, she'll tell me that I'm the best soccer player in the world. Sorry, Lionel Messi. Anyways, I grew up with a supportive family, right? Church was a big part of my life. Soccer was a huge part of my life. And that's where I really started to find acceptance. At school, I was the kid that played soccer. I was the kid that was good at soccer by the standards of my elementary school. And so that's how I learned to fit in with the people around me. That I found what I was good at and I stuck to it. And people liked me for the things that I was good at, which is only natural. There's nothing wrong with that. We do that all the time, right? We celebrate people that are good at something. They have a certain skill, a talent, ability. We celebrate them for that. And that's fine until you start to find your identity in the thing that people praise you for. See, what happened to me is as I grew up, right, started to get into middle school, which we have here in Canada or where I live in British Columbia, we have middle school and then high school, and I just came deeper and deeper, more rooted in my identity as a soccer player and as a good church boy, right? These were the two things because the people at church would celebrate me and accept me and praise me in a sense for being well behaved and reading my Bible and getting all the answers at Sunday school correct, right? That's what I did. And on the soccer field and at school in social settings, I was praised and celebrated and mostly just accepted, which is what I wanted, acceptance for being good at soccer. So I learned that I had to do good to be good. In other words, if I did good, if I performed properly, people would welcome me, people would accept me. And this is what I really wanted. I really wanted to be accepted. That, well, we all have that desire, right? Our deepest needs are to be loved and accepted. That's what we want. And so I was looking for acceptance from people. And I figured out that I could get it when I performed in a certain way. I did the things I was supposed to do for that group of people. Boom, acceptance. And this started to control my life. It started to control my life to the point where the things that I was supposed to enjoy started to become stressful for me. Like soccer, this sport that I loved, started to become stressful because I put this tremendous amount of pressure on myself to be to perform at a certain level, to be this good. I always have to be this good because if I'm not, if I fail, if I don't score or get an assist in this game, then people aren't going to accept me. That was my mindset. And so I was terrified of that, and I lived under this performance based acceptance worldview that I have to do good and be good to receive love and acceptance. And so this is how I went all the way up from however old I was, maybe we'll say late elementary school, grade 5, 6, somewhere around there, until I was in high school. I just lived this life. I was a good kid, sure. Like I didn't do bad things. I didn't, blatantly disobey my parents and sneak out and party and drink. Like I didn't live that lifestyle. I just tried really hard to be good at certain things. My Christian life and my sports. That was me. And then came grade 12 and something entered into my life that had never been there before. And it was a blatant sin. This blatant sin that entered into my life in grade 12 was the sin of pornography. Now, I know that there are a ton of people that struggle with pornography, even from a young age. And in one sense, it was kind of a miracle that I went that long without being exposed to it. But truthfully, none of us should ever view pornography. It's a sin, always. And it's something that we don't have to have in our life. But I gave into this sin and I began to consume it regularly in my life. And this presented me with a dilemma that I had never faced before. The dilemma was this: I had always done good to receive good. I had always acted in a certain way so that people would love and accept me. But what happens when I act in a way that people won't love and accept? What will happen to me? This was the problem that I was faced with. I had never encountered this situation before. I wasn't a perfect person, sure, but I was never sinning in this way or in this severity. I was watching pornography, and if anyone found out, I thought, I would never be loved or accepted again. So I resolved inside, no one will ever know. No one can ever know about this. I will keep this a secret at all costs so that I can continue to receive love and acceptance from people based on the way that I act. So this is what I did. I continued to live this lifestyle, and I entered into this new phase of my life where I started to live with a mask in front of my face, where when no one was watching, I lived a certain way in sin, but when the eyes of the world or my friends or family community was on me, I was good, perfect, pleasing Harrison. And no one knew because I always wore a mask. I pretended like everything was good with me. And I lived this way for a number of years, lying, keeping secrets, pretending, acting falsely to the people around me. I was so paranoid that if anyone found out, I would be cast away. I would be thrown out. No one would ever love me again. And this terrified me. And so I pretended. And it kept going and it kept going and it kept going. Now, at this point in my life, I have graduated high school and I have started going to Bible college. Let's backtrack just a little bit in this story. Before I entered into grade 12, I felt a call from God on my life to go into pastoral ministry. I remember that I was at the camp that my church put on every summer. And it was a camp that had a bunch of different youth groups from the area in which we live. And so all these youth from these different churches would go for 1 week to a Christian camp. And we would have worship and we would have different sermons from the guest speaker. And it was a powerful time in our spiritual lives. And I remember being at camp this year, the summer before I was about to go into my grade 12 year of high school. And we were in this worship time at the end of the service. And I just remember just being in the worship and just listening to what God wanted to say to me. And I just remember so clearly, God put it on my heart. He said, Harrison, I want you to be a pastor and I want you to lead people to me. Those were his instructions. I was, wow, God, that's so powerful. See, I had this idea in my head that I wanted to go into physiotherapy or sports medicine or somewhere along that lines because of my passion for sports. This is where I wanted to go after I graduated high school. These were my plans. But God sent me in a different direction when he gave me that call at camp that year. And so from that moment onwards through my grade 12 year, I had it in the back of my mind that I wasn't going to go to a university and study physiotherapy or sports science or whatever it might be. I was going to go to Bible college and I was going to study to be a pastor because I want to be obedient to God. And is it any wonder that as God is calling me into pastoral ministry, that the devil is trying to take me out of it before I ever get in it? And he just sends this temptation of pornography my way, and unfortunately, I gave into it. Now, the Bible that I was reading all the time would have told me to run from temptation and to flee from sexual immorality and to resist the devil and he will flee from you. I should have known these verses, but I was being a Christian and I was reading my Bible to please people, not to please God. And so I didn't do what the Bible actually said and I gave in to the sin that we have already talked about. So fast forward again, I get through my grade 12 year. I have it in the back of my head. I'm going to go to Bible college to become a pastor. Meanwhile, I'm hiding this secret of pornography from the world around me because no one can know. I have to put out this image that I have it all together for everyone. So I'm in Bible college and I'm still struggling with pornography and I'm still lying about it to the people that could have helped me. And this is how I go. And so first year of Bible college goes by and I graduate, get good grades, do all that stuff. Remember, I got to please the people. I got to be accepted by my community around me. So I'm doing all these things. And then second year of Bible college, I meet a girl. Not the first girl I've ever met, but the first girl that I was really interested in. And we start talking and we start to build relationship. And I start to like her and she starts to like me. And we start dating. And today she's my wife, but back then she was my girlfriend, Zion. And we started to build this relationship, second year of Bible college. And truly, looking back, I can see God's hand all over our relationship, just the way He brought us together. It's actually pretty funny. I'll try to explain this in a way where the timeline makes sense. It's just a funny story. But the church I grew up at, called Riverside, was sending a team of missionary students, grade 8 missionary students, to the church that my wife, who was not my wife at the time, was attending. And so my church, I was a leader on this team of grade 8s, was going to her church to serve and to do local missions work. So the grade 8s were going to clean the church and just bless this church and help out any way that they could. And I didn't know that it was Zion's church at the time. I was just like, I actually got asked 1 week before the trip started. I wasn't involved in any of the planning, none of that stuff. They asked me 1 week before, Harrison, can you help out and be a leader on this team? We need one guy leader to be with the boys. So I said, sure, I guess I can do that. And then we get to the church and then the students are cleaning. And I remember we were in the sanctuary just vacuuming the floors. It was a Saturday afternoon, and then this girl walks into the church sanctuary. Remember, this is just after I finished my first year of Bible college, and it's Zion. And I recognize her from school. Like we were in the same classes first year of Bible college. We just never talked. She was with someone else, right? But we never talked. And she walks in and she sees me and she says, "Oh, hi, Harrison." And I say, "Hey, Zion." And that was the first time that we ever actually had a conversation with one another. And right when we said hello to each other, all the grade 8 boys from this missions team say, "Oh, Harrison, is that your girlfriend?" And I got super embarrassed. My face went red. My face is always red, but it went extra red. And I was just like, "No, that's the first time I ever talked to her. I'm not even interested in her, nothing like that." But they kept teasing me the rest of the trip, right? We were only there for like 3 days for this missions trip, but they kept teasing me every time that I was around her that she was my girlfriend. So what I did to the lady who is now my wife, I'm ashamed to say, is I avoided her. I avoided her for those 3 weeks. She was actually just being a nice, genuine person, and she would come up and try to talk to me while we were on the trip, just make conversation with me, and I would avoid her. I would give her these 1, 2 word answers so that I didn't have to talk to her, so that I wouldn't get embarrassed by these grade 8 boys. Remember, I want everyone to love and accept me all the time. Anyways, silly story, but if you fast forward a month after that missions trip where I talked to her for the first time, we actually connected at Bible college that following fall semester. So just a couple months after I've, ignored her and pretended that I didn't want to talk to her at all, we see each other at Bible college. There's no grade 8 boys around to make fun of me anymore, and I'm actually able to be myself for once, and I start to talk to her, and that's when things start to pick up. And soon after, we start dating. And we start dating, and my problems actually still continue. My sin issues and struggles. But now it's really bad because I'm actually lying about it. I'm not telling anyone, and I'm pretending to not struggle with anything when in reality I am, and I'm still living in sin. And this is actually the thing that I'm just so, I regret it. I truly regret this. If I could go back and change anything, it would be this. Is I wish I just told the truth. I wish I was just honest with the people in my life that mattered the most. But I continued to hide my sin. I continued to pretend like I had it all together. And so moving forwards, we keep dating, we get engaged. I propose to her. She says yes, of course. A couple months later, we get married. Again, this has God's timing all over it. If you guys remember a number of years ago, the world kind of shut down. It was this thing called COVID. So my wife, Zion, and I actually got married 2 weeks before the world got shut down, right? We had a 3.5 month engagement. Everyone thought we were crazy. Like, why are you going to get married that fast? You can't plan a wedding that fast. Why are you guys going to do this? Just wait. You don't need to get married that quickly. Everyone was telling us that. But for some reason, we had this crazy idea in our heads that we needed to get married that fast. And turns out it was actually God's hand over our marriage, because if we had waited 6 months, 12 months, like everyone said, we wouldn't have had a wedding because the whole world was shut down and you weren't allowed to have a wedding in Canada. Only like 5 people were allowed to go. And we had this huge, awesome wedding with all of our friends and family there. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. So, anyways, God's timing was all over that. But we got married. And then we went on our honeymoon, and literally when we got back from our honeymoon, we had 1 week, and then everything in Canada just got shut down, and the rest is history. But anyways, I continued to hide my sin. Now at this point, I wasn't actually watching pornography. I wasn't living that. Like when we got engaged, I cut it out of my life by my own strength, just pure willpower. I'm not going to do this in our engagement or when we're married. So I didn't, and I stopped, but I was never truthful about who I was in my past when we were in our relationship together during the time that we were dating. So this was going on, right? And I wasn't living in sin, but I was still pretending like I was someone that I wasn't. And then it came to pass that I actually relapsed. I went over a year without giving in to sin, without giving in to pornography. But then came a time where I actually relapsed back to back. And it was super just shameful, super heavy on me. And I continued, right, my pattern of pretending that my sin didn't exist, that I didn't struggle, that I was this perfect, put together person. And then came a day, a little while after this time that I relapsed, where I broke down, and my wife found out about my sin, about the pornography, about how I had lied about it in the past, and the truth came to the surface. And that was rock bottom for me. Like, for the first time in my life, my greatest fears were being brought to the surface, and everything I had tried so hard to hide was revealed to the world around me. That I don't have it all together, that I'm a sinner, that I'm broken, and I'm a liar about all these things that I struggle with. And I was terrified that I would no longer be loved and accepted for who I was. And this broke me, and it broke my marriage. And if I could say one thing to anyone watching this video right now, I would say this: be honest. Don't hide things in relationship. Dating, engaged, married, yes, there's certain things you shouldn't share when you're dating, but if you're hiding sin, it's never going to work. See, I had this mindset that I can just overcome this area of sin by my own strength, that I can just deal with it. And if I just deal with it, then no one will know that I ever struggled with it. And if no one knows that I ever struggled with it, they'll just continue to love me and accept me. So I can just make this whole thing go away by my own efforts. And I tried this over and over and over again. And I failed over and over and over again. So back in the story, I'm broken. Rock bottom, shattered. My marriage shattered. The trust that I had tried to build, but it wasn't actually real trust, shattered. Just everything broken. I was just a shell of myself. I was going to lose my wife. We had a newborn at this time. I was going to lose my daughter, my firstborn child. They're going to leave because I'm just a liar who just pretends like I'm someone that I'm not. And my wife is like, do I even know who you really are? And that's a completely valid question because I had always pretended to be somebody that I wasn't, that I had put on a mask for so long that I had forgotten that I was even wearing it. So my world was shattered. And I realized something for the very first time in my life that I had never realized before. That I had never fully surrendered myself to God. Yes, I had grown up in the church. Yes, my parents were Christians. Yes, I prayed and read my Bible and went to Sunday school and the youth group and the summer camps. Yes, I did all of these things. I never swore. I never drank. I never did drugs. I did all of these things right. But I realized in that state of brokenness that I was just trying to follow a bunch of rules to please God and to please the people around me, but I never surrendered myself to God. I thought I could be accepted by God if I did all the right things, when in reality, what God really wanted was my heart, a surrendered heart. So I remember May 13, 2021, I was lying on my bed. I had actually just come back from my friend's wedding that day, and I had spent the whole day acting like I was happy, trying to be happy for my friend on this amazing day in his life, getting married to his wife. And I was faking it though. I was trying so hard to be happy when I was just broken, about to lose everything in my life. And I remember coming home from that wedding, just collapsing on my bed. God, I can't do this anymore. And I said something to God from the depths of my heart that I had never said to him before. I said, God, I can't do this on my own. I need your help. And in that moment, for the very first time, I felt the love of God surround me like a hug. When I came to God with my brokenness, my shame, and my sin, and I surrendered it to him, he didn't cast me away. He didn't reject me. He said, Harrison, I've been waiting for you to surrender this to me. And God gave me this picture on that day where I was lying on my bed and I surrendered to him. He gave me this picture. He showed me a picture of a door. And this door was at the top of a cliff. And God showed me that this door represented my double life, where I would walk into sin and then I would walk out and pretend I was fine. And I would keep going in and out, in and out, in and out of this door. He showed me this door, and what he did is he closed the door shut. And he said, Harrison, you're not going back through this door ever again. And then from the top of the cliff, God pushed the door off. And it fell down and down and down and down this cliff. So long it was falling until it finally hit the ground and it shattered into a million little pieces. And God showed me this and he gave me these words. He said, not only have I closed this door, but I have shattered this door, and you are never going back. And as I look at my life today, many years later, I can see that that picture that God gave me was true, that I have not even once, gone back to pornography, that I can confidently say that when I surrendered my heart and my sin, my whole life to Jesus, he set me free. The Bible says in John 8:36, who the Son sets free is free indeed. And God was faithful to keep his promise in my life. See, from that moment on, I went on a healing and recovery journey. The first and most important step was that I surrendered everything to God. And when I did that, he broke the chain of sin off of me. And from that moment, I began to put into practice different habits that would help me walk in freedom. Like, I had to get rid of my phone for a season of time because of all the time I had spent abusing my smartphone. I had used it for sin, and I was no longer able to use it faithfully and in a trustworthy way, so it was gone. This sounds crazy to people, but I had a flip phone for a period of time. And that thing sucked. It was so hard to text. It took so long to text people on that phone. I'm so glad I don't have it anymore. But it was necessary for a season. See, I was radical about getting rid of this sin from my life. I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get free. Not by my own strength, but by the power of God, because I tried it in my own strength and it failed over and over again. I'm doing it God's way. And God set me on this path where I was in a recovery group and I was getting help, the help that I actually needed from people who could help me, not just other people who are struggling with pornography as well. They're not going to help you. Hello. And so I got real help. I made real change, and God did a real work of restoration in my life. And I look at my life today, and it's just so different from how it was when I was at rock bottom, where I was just in this place where everything was shattered, and it was completely my fault and only my fault. Looking at my life today, it's only God. All I can say is that it's only God who changed me and set me free. Right? I became a pastor. I'm a pastor today serving at my local church. And God has allowed me to use my story to help other people in my church get out of pornography addictions. And I've seen young men go free from pornography. We've worked with young women to go free from pornography. We're probably getting close to 10 people now who have gone free from pornography, like for good. And that's a testament of the goodness of God in the work that he's doing in our lives. So I'm a pastor. I'm still married to my wife. She is an amazing woman of God, and God has brought healing into her life. He's brought healing and restoration into our marriage. I am just so delighted to say that she's the only woman that I look at, the only woman I have attraction to or desire for. And that's how God intended it. If you're a young man watching this and you're married, God designed you to only be attracted to your wife, not to anyone else, not even to look, not even to have a desire to look at anyone else. Only your wife, the woman who God has gave you, who you are in covenant relationship with. Anyways, that's how I look and feel towards my life. God has totally changed me and redeemed me. I have two beautiful daughters now, and I'm living a life that is surrendered to God. And I'm so grateful for the mercy and grace of God in my life. Grace is a gift that you didn't deserve, and mercy is a punishment that you didn't get. God gave both of those to me. His grace was a second chance to redo my marriage, to redo me being a father to my daughters, to being a pastor. He gave me another shot to do it properly, to do it honestly and not pretending. He gave me another shot. That's his grace. He gave me his mercy, which I'm just the most thankful for. That because of my sin, I should have been punished severely. The Bible says that the wages of our sin is death. And I know how sinful I am, how sinful I was. I'm not perfect today, I still sin, but I was a huge mess before. And God should have punished me for my sin, but instead He had mercy on me. And He withheld His punishment because of the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross. Jesus paid the price for my sins. And when I surrendered to Him fully, His sacrifice counted on my behalf. And I was set free of my sins, and I was set free of all the bondage that those sins had wrapped me in. God set me free in His grace and in His mercy. And I just see my life now as a vessel to say, God, what do you want to do in me and through me? And in this season, He's got me being the best husband I can be, being the best father I can be, being the best pastor I can be, and serving you through this online ministry, sharing my story and teaching the Bible, trying to disciple the younger generation who I believe God is going to do a huge revival in. And I just want to disciple you as you grow in your faith and spiritual maturity. See, this is the power of God, that I deserve to have a broken family. I deserve to have a broken marriage and a broken relationship with my kids. That's what my efforts, that's what my sins deserved. But God had other plans for me. And I surrendered my life to those plans. And that was the best decision that I ever made. So I encourage you today, if you resonate with any part of this story, I'm sure so many of you do. I encourage you to take the steps that I took. It might look a little bit different than me, but you need to surrender your life to Jesus. I'm not talking I prayed a prayer at kids camp. I prayed a prayer on Sunday morning and raised my hand. Praying a prayer didn't save me. Surrendering my life to Jesus saved me. That's what saved me. When I truly believed that Jesus was the only way that I could be free from the consequences of my sin, which ultimately was eternal hell, separation from God, when I believed that Jesus was the only way, the only truth, and the only life, and I did not rely on my parents' faith, I did not rely on my good works and my good Christian habits, when I did not rely on my good performance in areas of my life, when I did not rely on the acceptance of other people, when I relied only on the grace and mercy of God, that's when I was saved. And you can do that same thing today. If you realize that you're living in sin and you've never surrendered your life to Jesus, call on Him today. Say, Jesus, would you save me? I surrender every part of my life to you. I can't do this on my own. I need your help. If you pray that prayer, I believe Jesus will come to you, He will encounter you, and you will begin a personal relationship with Him. Hallelujah. Well, friends, I pray that this testimony has blessed you, and I hope it revealed a little bit of who I am and, why I am the way I am, why I'm passionate about the things I'm passionate about. This is my story, the major points in a nutshell. So thank you guys so much for watching and listening. Leave a comment if this blessed you. Leave a comment if there's an area of your life where you resonate with my story and you want more details. Harrison, how did you navigate this? What did you do in this scenario? What were the steps that you took to get out of your pornography struggles? Hey, reach out and I would love to help you in any way that I can with what God has blessed me with. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Take care. God bless you. We'll see you in the next one.